Hello, welcome back to the YouTube channel of Bethel Evangelical Free Church Hanley. I'm Pastor Gervais Charmley. This is the second Worcestershire church on this channel, at least as far as I can remember, and this is the Church of St John the Baptist, Mamble. Mamble is one of the wooden towers of Worcestershire. I think there's 5 of them. I know where all of them are, but this is the most northerly, as I recall, of the wooden towers of Worcestershire. It's not very far from Bayton, which, God willing, would have been the last church in, well, the last church video chronologically to this one, the one before this one. This is, again, it's a Norman building. It's the building that has been enlarged and extended over the centuries, particularly in the 14th century and the 13th century. And it used to have something that is unusual but not unique, which is a Roman Catholic chapel attached to it. This is because the local big house family, the Blounts, were Roman Catholics. They were recusants, that's a technical term for those who remained Roman Catholic after the Reformation. And they had their own mortuary chapel, and we'll see, it's in ruins now sadly, but we will see something as we go around. So let's have a look around and see some of the various treasures of this historic church. Well, this time we start in the West Tower, and this is the underlying structure of the wooden tower. You can see all these cross beams and these heavy timber, because it's got to support, after all, the bells that are up there. And there's at least a provision, it appears just to be one bell that is rung and a carillon of bells, but there seems to be provision for several more, at least 2 more, so at least 4 or 5 bells up here. And so this is big, heavy, medieval wooden structure. And there's a lot of wood in here. Now, there's also, there's the beer just tucked in a corner there, 17th century by the look of it. And the whole point, of course, is that, as you see, this is a little stone bit, and then above it, it's all timber. And as you can see, the timber rests here on the floor down there. So this is the wooden tower. Wooden Towers of Worcestershire, number 1, certainly if you're coming from the north. And then here we are in the nave, and you can see there you've got that nice 13th century arch there, leaning outwards a bit. It's quite a common thing to find. Buildings settle over time. It is quite safe. Here we have the font. Font is, so this is 13th century, it's widened in the 14th century. The font is, font looks 13th century as well. Victorian windows. We've got the Good Shepherd and King David, of course, the Lord is my shepherd and I know my sheep. You know, we have John the Baptist and the Lord Jesus Christ as the Lamb of God who taketh away the sins of the world. Stone pulpit, quite a small example, shy and retiring really. Bits of old panelling there, I suspect that's from the previous pulpit. You get into the chancel and you see this screen here, that led into the Blount Chapel. The chapel is now abandoned. It's derelict, it's roofless, the access is blocked up. You can just see there the top of a table tomb, and I'll point out something interesting about the table tomb later, but that table tomb, bear in mind where it is. And once again, we've got a picture of the king, King Charles III. It does seem very much to be a new thing since he came to the throne, to make sure we've got a picture of the monarch. Here we have, this is an early 16th century brass. This is of one of the Blounts. I'll see if I have information as to who he is. Brass is of John Blount, who died in 1510, so early 16th century, as I said. And again, he's in armour, and his wife Catherine is wearing mourning clothes, which suggests that she survived. And there's this table tomb, and this is a medieval tomb. It may have once had this 13th century knight on it, but no more, no more. Victorian altar, and it is very much an altar table here. And then here we have one of the great treasures, the 14th century crucifixion, stained glass. And of course there would have been lots of other stained glass, but this is the great survivor. This has survived where everything else has not. And so there we are looking west, and you can see there's a door and a gallery. Now the gallery would have had a front originally, and that's where the musicians would have been. There's still a door onto it, but obviously it's not a good idea to go up onto a gallery without a front, and that door is thoroughly locked, as it ought to be for health and safety reasons. Organ tucked away here. I don't know who made it. I suspect it's maybe a Nicholson. A lot of the organs in Worcestershire are, because of course Nicholson's based in Worcester. Behind the organ is the vestry. Now we go round here into the aisle. This is added in the 14th century. We've got here St Michael and St George, and this is a memorial. That sort of date it would be a memorial to first of all John Beaconsfield Johnson, who was killed in action 24th August 1914, and Cecil Harold Johnson, who died of wounds May 1916. So they are brothers who are killed fighting in the First World War. You can just see in there's an old piscina that's now got an old tea urn on it. So that's where they used to make the tea for Sunday school treats. Well, not where, I expect, but in what they did. We have here Charles Watkins Mersey. Now, I'm going to warn you, what you're about to see may be disturbing for some people until they realise what it is. It's that. It's a skeleton. It's not, of course, a real skeleton. It is an alabaster sculpture of a skeleton, but it's still a skeleton. It's rather fragmentary. Now, this is not its original location. This is a 14th century tomb niche, but the skeleton was originally on that table tomb outside the Blount Chapel. You can see why they moved it, because it would have been much more complete in terms of ribcage and everything. And it should just be a bit creepy having this life-size skeleton sitting there in the chancel for all to see through the service. You can imagine that the lads would be staring at it, and it's a skeleton, and that's probably why bits of it are missing, of course, because boys will be boys, and people will pinch things. So there we have the gallery, and again you see missing front. Can be accessed if necessary, but only if necessary. And here we have the memorial to we've got St Oswald and St Alban, and that's a memorial to the other men of the parish killed in the First World War. Up here, chap who's killed at the Battle of Inkerman, I think. No, died in Ireland, but he's a soldier anyway. He's a soldier there. So that is the inside here at Mamble. Very historic, very interesting, and yes, you see that's what you would have seen. And there, back here, is the Mamble skeleton. I do kind of think, is it these Roman Catholic lords of the manor are going, you know what? We're the lords of the manor. We can put what we like on our table too. We'll put a life-size alabaster hyper-realistic skeleton there, because why not? But when they sold up, when they moved out, then it gets moved here to a more out-of-the-way location. But still a bit of a surprise when you wander around and it's a skeleton. Well, yes, but it's a sculpture of one, not a real one. Well, there's the inside here at Mamble. Let's have a look around the outside before it starts raining again. So here we are outside at Mamble. The wind's getting up a bit, and it's a little bit difficult to film the south side because of where the road is. But you can see behind me there's this wooden porch. This is 17th century, maybe 16th century, and it's good to see something from that date surviving, because very often they're swept away and replaced by more picturesque, but in my opinion duller, Victorian structures that don't accurately reflect the way that these churches are altered over time. So have a look around the outside and particularly point out again that tower and that mausoleum. here we are. This is, of course, is the south side, the south aisle. You can see here there's the 13th century chancel extending beyond it. It is 14th century, and so those windows, although they are Victorian restorations, are era appropriate, shall we say. This porch is like any porch of that period. It's really just a protection. Originally, the sides would probably have been a wattle and daub rather than as they are now, brick. But brick, of course, is more enduring and doesn't be replaced so often. There's that doorway, and again the side here with the brick. And here you've got, this is the base, and there's the tower above. These towers, wooden towers, quite often there's a stone base here, so that looks, of course, just like this little belfry, but we've been inside, we've seen the massive structure holding it up, so that makes it one of the wooden towers of Worcestershire. Around the west end here, and a little 13th century type 13th century window there, and round to the north, and on the north side there is the mausoleum, the Blount Chapel, which was a Roman Catholic chapel. It was actually consecrated, would you believe it, for the Mass at one point, very briefly, of course, and then it's abandoned and it's in its present state. But this is 16th century everything. It's a mortuary chapel, as I say, and if you were wealthy enough, you could be a recusant and you could just pay your fines and get off with it, because it was illegal to be a Roman Catholic back then. And thankfully it was only enforced when there were panics and when it was felt that there was a serious threat from, for example, Spain. But normally it wasn't. You see here a little bit of this what's called diapering, this use of you just see there the burned brick, and there's the doorway that used to lead, and you can see there the other side of that table tomb where they reckon that the skeleton used to be, and some remains of memorials inside. Obviously the roof has fallen in. It's you see a cross up there. One of the indicators of a Roman Catholic memorial in an old English church is that it will have RIP on it, because RIP, however much it gets used today, and it's in the cottages, however much it may get used today in fiction and popular culture, it's a Roman Catholic. It's may he rest in peace. It's a prayer for the dead, which the medieval church did, but which would never be done in a which would never be done in a Protestant church, because the idea is that the dead have passed beyond the need for our prayers, that to die is to be with Christ, which is far better. You don't need someone praying for you, for your soul after you die, because if you're a believer and you die in the Lord, you are safe with him forever. So this is Mamble. It's a very picturesque little church. It's just north end of Worcestershire, and God willing, return to Worcestershire at some point and do some other videos. But there we are. That's the east end of the church, and so that's Mamble, one of the wooden towers of Worcestershire, with its Roman Catholic mortuary chapel, its skeleton, and its other delights. It's a beautiful building. We've just seen a little sample of the structure, and if you're ever in the area here, it's well worth a visit. You can spend much longer than we have. Well, again, the aim of these videos isn't to be completely exhaustive usually. It's to be representative and to encourage people to go and look, because if you live in England, the chances are there's a beautiful medieval parish church, a lot like this one, not very far from where you live. Well, thank you for watching, and may God bless you and keep you until next time.